We try to do these behavioral changes, like I'm going to be nicer, I'm going to have the better boundaries, and or say things right, communicate better, and those are great, but it has to be backed up by, you know, the identity piece, the who you take yourself to be, has to be a healthy version of you. You have to feel good enough. You have to feel okay in your skin. You have to feel worthy, or else that the rest of that is just, like, as another analogy that I like is rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. It's only going to take you so far.
Yeah.
So that is the deeper work, and it's not as simple. I wish it was, of just like, oh, put down that baggage. Like it's a process. We have to work through it. Like, why am I carrying this? What does that mean to me? There are old connections that were made long ago. We can't just cut the connection. I mean, sometimes there are certain things that may help to do that, but usually there's like an understanding that has to occur.
What's up, you beautiful beasts? I'm Katie. I'm on a mission to help humans become their favorite versions of themselves and to strive for overall health by healing their relationship to food and exercise, healing their relationship to their body, and most importantly, healing their relationship to themselves, all without ever having to step on a scale. I have had the privilege to talk to all kinds of different humans who have been through a plethora of experiences just being a human and existing. I believe that every single time someone shares their story, at least one person listening will learn from it, be inspired by it, and maybe, just maybe, even change the entire direction of their life. These are the stories of humans unveiling their beautiful beast. Keep listening. This is the Unveiling the Beast podcast. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and why you think you are who you are?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, who I am, in my work, I'm a trauma and relationship coach, and I mostly work with women. I've also been a yoga teacher for a long time, for about 30 years. And I think I am who I am now because of those things, because I'm in a happy, healthy relationship with my husband for 23 years as well. And we live in Costa Rica, and we're making a life here. So that's a little bit about me. But yeah, I think I am who I am because of the early trauma that I experienced, and that caused me to have difficult relationships, I would say, with my mother, with friends, with boyfriends, and then seeking yoga for healing, for fitness too, because I was young when I sought it out, but also for mental clarity, and then spirituality and meditation and Buddhism. And so all those things have contributed to where I am now. And I sought a lot of that to get myself, ideally more inner peace, more inner joy and happiness. And because I wasn't getting what I needed from the yoga, from the meditation, I was still having conflicts and still not happy with myself. That's when I got more support through coaching and through, like, I tried therapy that didn't really take me that far. So that's when I went on to work with a relationship coach and become a coach myself. And through that work, it's like, okay, things really started to shift, and I started to heal a lot of old issues and my traumas, and then be able to help people with theirs. So that's the nutshell version.
I love it. Are you open to going a little deeper into your story?
Yeah.
Just the hopes is always that somebody listening, just at least one person, can relate or maybe help themselves after. So
yeah, you bet. So first, just to say that there's lots of types of trauma. So I was not abused or neglected physically or emotionally or sexually. But so a lot of people think, oh, that's trauma or a car accident or something. But I had the more subtle type of trauma, which we call complex trauma, which is more chronic, and developmental trauma, which is in the earliest years, like the first 3 years. So my trauma was, even though I had loving parents and they were doing their best, they went on a trip when I was 2 weeks, when I was 5 months old, and weaned me. at that time, and they left me with the grandparents for 2 weeks. So that's a big break in the attachment system and the bond that's supposed to be happening for a lot longer than 5 months. So I do believe that created a big impact. And then my parents got divorced before I turned 3 years old. So I was a thumbsucker till I was 8. And that's a sign, right, that I'm trying to comfort myself. Um, and, um, and then also there was a time when my mother was in the hospital for 10 days when I was a year and a half. So I had these breaks in the bond with the mother, with my father when he left, and then I had a lot of insecurities. So I always felt not good enough, not lovable. For a while, I thought I was adopted, like I just didn't fit in. And I think the parenting I had was pretty good, except my mother had her own insecurities and a lot of anxiety and fear, and she was depressed for a while after the divorce. So all that impacted how I developed and how I felt about myself. So that is the identity that we each create is so based on how we're supported, how we're nourished and nurtured in our early years. Yeah. So I think all that impacted me. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that too, because a lot of people don't realize how far back it can go.
Yeah.
And to the time we don't even remember. At least most people don't. Some people can remember that far, but most people don't.
Yeah, and it can go into the womb too. There can be traumas that happen while you're in the womb. So if your parents are arguing, if there's an accident, if you don't get enough nourishment, if there's drugs. So yeah, a lot can happen before you even get here.
So then did that create, I'll go with limiting beliefs or whatever, surrounding relationships moving forward in your life?
Yes, I would say so very much. Yeah. I have these limiting beliefs about myself, right? Like I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. I knew I was loved. So that's pretty great because some people don't feel loved. So I had that. And yet I didn't feel liked by people. And I mumbled, I didn't speak up. I just so that these were all like signs of this insecurity that I was experiencing. I was small, I got teased. So, my brother was really hard on me, my older brother. So, so I forget your question exactly, but it did impact my relationships because I didn't show up with a sense of self-assuredness. I showed up with low self-esteem, that kind of not good enough, identity. And so if you have these lenses on, like people don't like me or I'm not good enough, then what do we do to compensate? We try harder sometimes, like to be better. So I was really competitive. I wasn't an A student or anything, but I tried. But I did a lot of self-comparison. And and I would push people away with that. And I was really judgmental. So I had good friends, but later in life, I noticed a lot of, like, I was keeping people at arm's distance as a yoga instructor. And I was trying to be like all yogic and spiritual. And I was to an extent, but I also didn't let people in because I was so afraid they wouldn't like what they saw. So I kept people at a distance, and then I was like lonely. I had my husband, but I didn't have a lot of close friends. So that's when I started to be like, okay, something's got to change here. I keep having these conflicts in my work world, and then even with friends, or just not feeling like I have enough friends. So.
And so now with that story, fast forward a lot, this is now what you work with people on.
Yeah. Well, I would say fast forward to, I did my own work on that, and I got through a lot of these insecurities, a lot of the fear that was running my life, a lot of the low self-worth that, was coloring, how I projected all over people. And so I then began to develop really good friendships. And to this day, those friends are still my closest friends, even though I'm in Costa Rica and they're in the States. That was 12, 13 years ago. And some of them developed before then, but just like really grounded, supported, really loving friendships where there isn't conflict, now where we know how to communicate. Yeah, so we show up for each other. So that's what I continue to do. And now I'm doing that here. And I hold a lot of space for women because I know that was so healing for me. Way back, when I started a friendship circle in where I used to live in Northern California, that was really healing for me to be in a space with other women and just share and, let down my guard. And that was a really important part of my healing in the coaching training that I did too. It was like,
Yeah.
authentic, a lot of us are trying to be someone we're not all the time, or trying to be liked. And it's hard to get liked when we don't know you, when you're trying to be something, you're trying to please or whatever you're trying to do. So I did my own work on that, and I help a lot of women with that too. And with relationship skills and whatever other types of trauma, that they're working through, anxiety, fears, anger, emotional stuff, boundaries, communication, just all the areas of challenges that most of us face when we're trying to have an intimate relationship or any kind of healthy relationship.
Yeah. I heard this analogy today. This is kind of reminding me of it. Is like we go to start on this new trek and say it's like we're going to climb this mountain. And we're like, hold on, let me just bring this bag of trauma with me, and let me just take this anxiety and put this over my shoulders. And then, oh wait, I need my water bottle full of self-doubt. And then you're bringing all these things with you. And then you get to the guide, right? Which could be the coach. And the coach is like, okay, we can climb this mountain, sure, but first you got to put some of these bags down. And I was like, oh, that's so good. Because it's true. We try to go do these new things or learn these new ways or try to change. I don't want to say change who we are, but remove some of the layers that cover up who we really are. But we try to take everything with us. And those are the things that are keeping us from being us and doing the thing. So
yeah, well said. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and part of it is like, and as you were saying that, at least I thought of like we try to do these behavioral changes. Like I'm going to be nicer, I'm going to have the better boundaries, or say things right, communicate better, and those are great. It's not, I'm not dissing like good. I teach communication skills, I teach healthy boundaries, but it has to be backed up by, the identity piece, the who you take yourself to be, has to be a healthy version of you. You have to feel good enough. You have to feel okay in your skin. You have to feel worthy, or else that the rest of that is just, like, as another analogy that I like is rearranging the furniture on the Titanic. It's only going to take you so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the deeper work, and it's not as simple. I wish it was, of just like, oh, put down that baggage. Like it's a process. We have to work through it. Like, why am I carrying this? What does that mean to me? Where do I go when someone says that to me? Why, so because there are old connections that were made long ago. We can't just cut the connection. I mean, sometimes there are certain things that may help to do that, but usually there's like an understanding that has to occur, a reorientation, a reorganization, which is what I see right in my office working with clients. Like someone's like, oh, wow, like I feel really different right now. Like I don't, that's me anymore. I can let that go, not because I said just let it go, but because they did something that helped them have like I said, a reorientation around it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So then on the topic of health and how relationships can affect our physical, mental, all health, what have you seen in clients on that topic? Like how have you seen relationships, good and bad, affect the client's health, good and bad?
You bet. Yeah. I'm thinking of a client right now who was in an unhealthy marriage for like 30 some years when she came to me. and she was having a lot of anxiety and fear. And let's just say that she discovered through the program, she was in my online program for women, that it wasn't just the relationship. This stuff, again, came from a lot earlier in her childhood, but she got herself into an unhealthy relationship and was repeating unhealthy dynamics with her husband. And so she was wrought with anxiety. She had all these like immune, system issues, chronic health concerns, and just not happy, not functioning as well as she wanted to function. And this is something I see commonly. I just wrote an email about this today around anxiety, because when we have early trauma, we usually are going to have mental health stuff. We're going to have anxiety. We're going to need a way to cope with that, and that with the upset that occurred, the emotional upset, right? And we're going to do that through drugs and alcohol, or eating, or starving ourselves, or overworking, or overexercising, or whatever the things are. So anyway, and all of that's unhealthy, right? As far as talking about, right? So, and there's direct correlations now between early trauma and your health. I don't know if you tuned into that, but the ACA, shows directly, like the more trauma you've had, the more chronic health concerns you have, including addictions and obesity. So there's just no doubt about that. Like those are connected. But yeah, so what I've seen with this client, for example, is that as she's done a lot of unwinding through my program, and she chose to stay longer because she's just like, I'm getting so much out of this, I know I need more. She's just in a happy, healthy place now. She's separated from her partner, and it took her a while to get there, because she had to it just was the time it took. She had her own to go through. And she's healthy again. She just feels like fit, and she's out there working again and teaching again. And it's like she's just doing really well. And you can see it in her face. She's a lot more vibrant.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love stories like that, because we don't often realize how much everything is connected. Even sleep. People like, I don't know, I only need 5 hours. No, you need more than that. But the relationship piece is so big, because we are what's the word I'm looking for? We're beings that need connection in order to survive.
Absolutely.
And function, and it's also hard when a client is in a relationship that's not so healthy, and they can't even see it because that's their normal,
Yeah.
So
they got to raise their hand and ask for help. We can't just help them if they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
So
if you had I know it's different for everyone, because we're all different, but if you had general tips and tricks on how to have healthy relationships, what would they be?
Yeah. Oh, I've done a lot of little Instagram videos about that.
Oh,
cool. So I would say, as we've been talking about today, starting with yourself is going to be really an essential piece, because if you don't address your anxiety, your anger, your fear, whatever you're holding on to, it's just going to keep coming out in your relationships, right? So these core wounds need to be addressed. So that's first and foremost, and not a quick fix. But self-compassion could be something you could start with. And the idea would be that, we're all doing our best, and we all got what we got. And we came, as my father would say, we came by it honestly, meaning it's not our fault. Whatever happened to us, kids make it their fault, but it's not. You're just a kid. You don't cause your parents to be angry. You don't cause your parents to divorce, or whatever, to hit you, or whatever they do to you. Whatever they do give you or don't give you that, shouldn't be happening. It's not your fault. So if you can really grok that and get that you're just an innocent little being who needed something and you didn't get it, and you did the best you could in that circumstance, and you coped however you coped, and you're maybe still coping in the same way or in a modified way, when you can cut yourself some slack around that and also have some compassion for yourself and not be so dang hard on yourself for everything, because most people are pretty hard on themselves. I should be better. I should be smarter. I should be handsomer. I should be, richer, whatever the things are. When we can just give ourselves a break and give ourselves some love and compassion, some of that intense tension can release, some of the anxiety can release, and we can just be more relaxed with ourselves. It doesn't mean we're not trying to improve or, do the work that needs to be done, but we don't have to be so hard on ourselves. So that would be one thing. I know that's a long.
No, it's good. I like that.
Yeah. And another is learn communication tools, because most of us were not taught that growing up or in school or anywhere on TV or anything. And it's sorely lacking in our culture and in the world in general. So yeah, we can all benefit from healthy communication tools that we can use to stop being so defensive, to stop blaming and criticizing and all those things that are kind of toxic and creates, conflict instead of creates connection. So there are tools that you can learn to create connection and to stop the disconnection.
Yeah.
And the one tool I will give you right here and now is to take responsibility for yourself. So that means if you did something you wish you didn't do, or you realize hurt somebody, you can apologize, or you can say, I regret that I did that, or I'm sorry if that hurt you. And you can own it instead of, well, you did that, and try to get it back. It's the ego that needs to defend. And when we can practice humility and let it be okay that I made a mistake. We all make mistakes. And have to defend ourselves so much, but just be humble and say, you're right. I messed up. I was late, or I forgot, or whatever the thing was. Then it'll go a lot further than trying to make yourself right and the other person wrong. So humility is a great tip. Yeah. And I think I gave some other ones along the way around blaming and criticizing and defending.
Right, yeah. No, these are good, especially the communication piece. You always hear communication is key.
Yeah.
Like, there's different types, like the literal versus implied communication. I was an implied communicator my whole life. So, yeah, it's a big shift on like, oh, you mean I actually, like, for example, I'll have a client that says, how do I tell my husband that this thing he does makes me upset or upsets me? And I'll say, well, have you tried saying, hey, this thing that you do upsets me? Well, no. Yeah, that's just an example for the listener, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. Like speak your truth, and speak it without blame. That's the hard part, because blame is like infiltrated into our communication, but speak it in a way that they're not going to get defensive. And there's a whole set of skills that we don't have time for here, but that's part of owning, taking responsibility too. But yeah, don't expect someone to read your mind. They cannot, or read your hand signals and eye signals or whatever, your size and frustration. Like, just speak it, and if you don't feel safe enough to speak something out loud because you think you're going to get hurt, then that's a red flag. That's not okay. You need to be in a relationship where you can speak your truth in a way that can be received. And so if you one easy thing on the blaming and the, when you're blaming, you're not taking responsibility. So that's
right.
Simple. But one way that we blame is we go with the finger pointing, or we say you did this, and because of you, that happened, and we're pointing out the cause of somebody, and they're going to defend. That's just kind of normal human behavior, is to defend when you get blamed or it feels like an attack. So the more you can say, when that happened, or when you did that, if it's clearly you did that, when you put your cup there, I felt scared because it was on the edge of the counter. So you just own it. Like, I felt scared. It doesn't mean it was going to fall and you're an idiot. It means I was scared that it was going to fall. So, for example, if you own your own experience instead of making somebody wrong, they're much more able to hear you. Not everyone. Some people are really narcissistic and they're going to go, well, you're stupid for feeling that way, But
Yeah.
if they criticize you back, then maybe they're not able to have healthy communication with you.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the compass of clear communication?
I don't think so. I probably have heard everything on it, but I haven't.
Yeah.
Metaphor, yeah.
It's one of the communication tools that I learned where like this is just in a very brief description of it, but you start up here where the thing happens, an event happens. This is like the thing that happens. Then we make a judgment about the thing that happened, right? Then based off of this judgment, we get an emotion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like, for example, my husband answers the phone while we're watching a movie together. I make it mean that the phone call is more important than us on the couch watching a movie together. That then makes me feel this way. And so then, this is typically what happens in relationships. And then the bottom piece would be like, communicate this to the partner. This happened. You answered your phone. I made it mean this. Then I felt this way. In the future, I'd like to request.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's so simple, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's super familiar to what I work with as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And expressing your desires, your wants, your desires, your needs is really helpful. So that would be like, I would love to just be able to watch a movie with you, knowing we're not going to have any interruptions unless intimacy. Would you be willing to turn your phone off during the movie or put your phone in the other room or whatever?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So you might preface the request with a need or a desire so they understand why you're making the request.
Yeah. And then it also takes away you did this.
Yeah. You're wrong. Yeah.
You're wrong for answering your phone. Because for all I know, maybe it's a call he's been waiting for or, whatever. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. But when you talk these things out, then you get to know each other more. You get to understand where you're coming from, and then okay, like I don't want to piss you off, and I want to be here for you, so I'll do what I can. Ideally, your person wants to meet you in the way to be met, to the best of their ability. And yeah.
So I have one more question for you, and I ask everyone at the end of every episode, and that is, if you had one piece of advice that you could give to the world, what would it be?
Oh, I've got two that come to mind. I've said them both already. But let's just go with the self-compassion one. That's so foundational, I think. So many people don't have it. So yeah, if you don't have that online, go get some of that.
Beautiful beasts, Robyn Smith signing off. Until next time. Bye.